It was on a crisp autumn morning that I first noticed Emma. She wasn't the kind of person you could easily miss. There was something about her presence that made people stop and take notice. But it wasn't just her beauty that caught the eye, it was her grace, her quiet strength, and the way she moved through the world with an effortless sense of purpose. At 27, Emma was the only daughter of a powerful business family, a name well known in the circles of the city's elite. Yet, despite her wealth, she never acted like it. Emma had everything that many people dream of: a luxurious life, the finest clothes, an apartment in the heart of the city, and a job at a prestigious firm that anyone would envy. But she never flaunted any of it. She didn't wear designer labels or indulge in the typical trappings of wealth, where others might have been swept away by their status. Emma had a remarkable sense of simplicity that defied expectations. She was always dressed in understated elegance, nothing flashy, nothing extravagant. But everything about her attire spoke of impeccable taste. It wasn't about looking expensive or trying to impress, it was about something deeper. A quiet reflection of her character. She didn't need to wear labels to tell people who she was. Emma made it clear through her actions and the way she treated others that she valued substance over superficiality. I remember watching her at a charity event one evening. A gathering that typically attracted the usual crowd: business tycoons, politicians, and celebrities who were more interested in showcasing their wealth than in doing any real good. Emma stood out among them. Not because of her clothes or her name, but because of the way she engaged with people. She didn't look down on anyone, whether it was the staff serving drinks or the well-known figures seated beside her. She treated everyone with the same respect. There was no hierarchy in her world. She saw people for who they truly were, not by what they wore or what they had. And yet, despite her charm and her undeniable beauty, there was a sadness in her eyes, a sense of something unspoken. You could tell there was more to Emma than met the eye. Beneath that polished exterior was a woman searching for something beyond the world she was born into. Something that perhaps even her wealth couldn't provide. Emma had a complicated relationship with love. She'd been raised in a world where appearances often mattered more than the truth beneath them, where relationships were more about status than connection. She'd seen the people around her, friends, family, even potential suitors, caught up in a whirlwind of expectations. They wanted something from her, but they didn't really want her. And over the years, Emma had learned to shield herself from the superficiality that surrounded her. It was during one of these events that she first met Ryan, a young entrepreneur who had made his mark in the business world. He was everything society admired: handsome, ambitious, successful. He was immediately drawn to Emma's beauty and poise. In their conversations, there was an undeniable chemistry, and Ryan made his intentions clear: he wanted to get to know her, to see if they could build something together. At first, Emma wasn't sure how to respond. On the surface, Ryan seemed like the perfect match for her: successful, charming, and driven, but there was something in his gaze, something in the way he looked at her that made her uneasy. It wasn't love that shone in his eyes, but fascination with the idea of her, the idea of Emma as a prize to be won. Emma had been through enough to recognize when someone was interested in her for the wrong reasons. Over the years, she'd met many men who were captivated by her wealth, her beauty, her status, but none of them had ever truly seen her, the person beneath the surface. They wanted her for what she could offer them: prestige, social standing, a beautiful wife to show off to their friends. But they didn't want to know her. Not really. And Emma wasn't interested in being another object in someone's collection. Despite his charm, Emma kept Ryan at arm's length. She refused to be swept away by his attention. She wasn't willing to settle for another empty relationship built on superficialities. If Ryan was really interested in her, she needed to be sure that he valued more than just her outward appearance. It wasn't long before Ryan made a move that made Emma realize just how little he understood her. He suggested they go for dinner with her family, a typical, traditional step in any relationship. But Emma, ever the realist, saw this as an opportunity to test his sincerity. She had a plan. When Ryan arrived at her family home, he was greeted by the warm, familiar faces of the household staff, whom Emma had asked to pose as her parents for the evening. She watched carefully as Ryan interacted with them. Instead of showing humility or respect, Ryan seemed uncomfortable, impatient, even a little condescending. He didn't care about the people who served him, he was too busy sizing up her family's social status, evaluating how they fit into his plans. It was in that moment that Emma realized everything she had feared about Ryan was true. With a quiet resolve, Emma ended the evening. She told Ryan that she didn't think they were a match. He tried to convince her otherwise, of course. But Emma knew what she had to do. She was done with relationships that were built on appearances, on shallow admiration. She wanted something deeper, something real. And so, she let go of Ryan. The weight of that decision was heavy, but it was the first step toward finding the love she truly wanted. It was the beginning of a new chapter in Emma's life, one where she would learn that true love isn't about status or surface-level attraction. It's about connection. About seeing someone for who they really are, not for what they have or what they can give you. As Emma stood there, reflecting on the decision she had made, she realized that the path ahead might be uncertain. But she was no longer willing to settle for anything less than what her heart truly desired. She was ready to find love. Real love. And nothing would stand in her way. After Emma ended her brief and disappointing relationship with Ryan, she threw herself into her work and charity efforts, seeking solace in activities that brought her a sense of fulfillment. She had always been passionate about giving back, about making a difference in the world beyond the realm of business and privilege. Yet, even in these moments of purpose, a small, quiet ache lingered in her heart. It wasn't loneliness she felt, it was the absence of connection. The kind of bond that went beyond appearances, beyond what people saw on the surface. She was tired of the mask that society expected her to wear, and tired of people who didn't see her as a person, just as an image. And so, in her own way, she retreated into her work, into the charity events she organized, into the quiet moments of reflection. Emma didn't need anyone to complete her, she was already whole. But deep down, she longed for someone who could see that, who could see past the wealth, the beauty, the success, and love her for who she truly was. It was during one of these charity events, a fundraiser for an orphanage, that Emma first met Nathan. He wasn't part of the usual circle of wealthy donors or influential guests, instead, he was there because of his personal commitment to the cause. Nathan was a successful young businessman, yes, but he had something different about him. He wasn't in it for the recognition, or to rub shoulders with the right people. He was there to make a real difference. When Emma first saw him, she couldn't help but notice how effortlessly he moved through the crowd. He wasn't the loudest or most charismatic person in the room, but there was a quiet strength in his demeanor. Nathan had a warmth about him that made people feel seen, heard, and valued. As she watched him speak with the children at the orphanage, she saw a side of him that few others did. There was no pretension, no desire to impress, just a genuine interest in the well-being of others. He listened to their stories. He asked them questions. And most importantly, he treated them with respect. Emma couldn't help but be drawn to him. For the first time in a long time, Emma felt something stir inside her. It wasn't just attraction, it was admiration. A deep appreciation for who Nathan was as a person. There was no hint of ego or arrogance in him. No grand gestures or expectations. He was simply kind. In that moment, Emma knew that she had found someone who had the potential to understand her. Not just as the daughter of a wealthy family, but as a human being with hopes, dreams, and a desire for connection. Over the next few months, their paths crossed more frequently. Nathan's genuine nature stood in stark contrast to the superficiality of many of Emma's other acquaintances. He didn't try to impress her with fancy dinners or expensive gifts. instead. He asked her about her life, about her hopes, and about the causes she cared about. He didn't just ask questions to fill the silence or because it was polite, he asked because he was genuinely interested in her answers. In their conversations, Emma found herself opening up in a way she hadn't with anyone before. She found herself sharing her dreams, her frustrations, and her fears. Nathan listened with a patience and understanding that made her feel safe, like she could trust him with the deepest parts of herself. For the first time in a long time, Emma felt as though someone truly saw her. But despite the growing bond between them, Emma couldn't shake the fear that perhaps Nathan, like all the others, was just interested in the image of her. She had been burned before, and the idea of letting her guard down again was a daunting prospect. Could she really trust him? Would he still like her if he knew the truth about her family, about her wealth, about the life she led? These thoughts lingered in Emma's mind as she spent more time with Nathan, questioning whether he truly cared about her for who she was, or if he was simply another man interested in her status and appearance. But as time went on, Nathan's actions spoke louder than any of her doubts. He never once asked her about her family's wealth or her social standing. Instead, he spoke about his own passions, his own struggles, and the ways he hoped to make a difference in the world. He never sought anything from her but her company and her trust. And with each passing day, Emma found herself feeling something she hadn't in years: hope. Hope that love, real love, wasn't about superficial attraction or external validation. It was about a deep, emotional connection, built on understanding, respect, and shared values. As Emma spent more time with Nathan, she couldn't help but wonder if this could be the kind of relationship she had always dreamed of. A relationship where love wasn't based on what you had, but on who you were. And yet, a small part of her still held back, still unsure whether this connection was truly as genuine as it seemed. She was afraid to fall again, afraid to let her guard down and be vulnerable. But as she looked at Nathan, she knew that perhaps it was time to take that risk. Because maybe, just maybe, he was someone worth trusting, someone who could see her, truly see her, for the person she was beneath the surface. As the weeks passed, Emma found herself more and more drawn to Nathan. There was something so comforting about him, his sincerity, his humility, the way he made her feel at ease in a world that often felt heavy with expectations. It was rare for Emma to meet someone who didn't want anything from her, someone who didn't see her wealth or her family as a stepping stone but as a person. Nathan had no agenda. He simply enjoyed spending time with her, learning about her, and sharing his own life in return. Still, despite the growing connection between them, Emma wrestled with doubt. Her heart wanted to believe that Nathan's intentions were pure, but the memories of past betrayals and disappointments lingered, making it difficult for her to fully trust. She had learned the hard way that people didn't always want to know the real her. They wanted the version of her that fit their idea of success or beauty, but not the complexities that came with being born into a family like hers. She spent countless nights questioning Nathan's motives, wondering if he was truly interested in her or if, deep down, he had an agenda of his own. The doubts continued to haunt her, even as their bond deepened. Nathan had never mentioned her family or her wealth, and he seemed content with the simpler moments they shared: the long walks in the park, the dinners at local cafes, the quiet conversations about their hopes for the future. But Emma couldn't help but wonder, was Nathan's affection genuine? Or was he just another man intrigued by the image of her? It wasn't until one fateful weekend that Emma decided to test him. She wanted to see how Nathan would react if he truly knew everything about her family's wealth, their influence, and the lifestyle that came with it. She wasn't sure what to expect, but she knew that this was a critical moment in their relationship. If Nathan was truly the man she believed him to be, he would accept her for who she was, not for the life she lived. Emma invited Nathan to visit her family's rural estate, a place she rarely brought anyone. The house, nestled in the countryside, was modest in its own way, far removed from the opulent mansion in the city, but it still held a certain charm. Emma wanted to see how Nathan would react in a place so different from the world they had come to know each other in. It was an environment where the expectations of wealth and status were stripped away, where only the simplest, most raw version of herself remained. Upon arrival, Emma introduced Nathan to her staff, a kind, elderly couple who had worked with her family for years. She explained that they would be playing the role of her parents for the weekend. A decision meant to test Nathan's character. She wanted to see if he would accept the humble surroundings and engage with her staff without judgment, without looking down on them. At first, Nathan seemed surprised by the setup, but he quickly adjusted. He treated the couple with the same respect he had always shown her, even when things didn't go as planned. The house, though charming, was in need of repair, and when it started raining, the roof leaked in several places. Without hesitation, Nathan grabbed a bucket to catch the water, offered to help fix the roof, and even volunteered to carry water from the nearby well. He didn't complain about the discomfort or the inconvenience. Instead, he worked alongside Emma, doing whatever needed to be done. Emma watched him closely, her heart beating in her chest as she observed his every move. This was the moment of truth. Would Nathan show his true colors? Would he become frustrated or dismissive when faced with the realities of a life that wasn't filled with luxury? Or would he rise to the occasion, just as he had always done, with humility and grace? As the day went on, Emma found herself increasingly moved by Nathan's actions. There was no hint of arrogance or superiority in the way he interacted with her. No judgment or distaste for the simplicity of the life she was showing him. Instead, he embraced it, helping without hesitation and even finding joy in the small moments, laughing together as they fixed the roof, talking about the past as they shared stories over a simple meal, and simply enjoying each other's company. When the truth finally came out that this wasn't her family, that the elderly couple was just a staff member posing as her parents, Emma held her breath, waiting for Nathan's reaction. He didn't seem shocked or offended. Instead, he smiled. A genuine, warm smile that spoke volumes. "You didn't have to test me. You know," he said softly. "I already knew that what matters most is the person you are, not what you have or don't have." Nathan's words hit Emma harder than she expected. In that moment, all of her doubts, all of her fears, melted away. He had passed the test without even knowing it. He had shown her exactly who he was, someone who valued her for who she was, not for the life she was born into. As they sat together, the storm outside finally subsiding, Emma realized that she had found something truly rare. She had found someone who saw her, not as a wealthy woman or a daughter of a powerful family, but as Emma, just Emma. A person who wanted to be loved for her heart, for her soul, and for the quiet kindness she carried within. In Nathan, Emma found the love she had been searching for all along, and for the first time in years, she allowed herself to believe that love, real love, was possible. The days following Emma's test of Nathan were some of the most profound of her life. In the weeks that followed, she watched him carefully, every interaction, every gesture, and every word. Nathan's actions consistently reinforced the belief that he was, indeed, someone genuine, someone worthy of her trust. The warmth of his character and the depth of his care for others were undeniable, and Emma couldn't help but let herself believe that, perhaps, she had finally found the kind of love she had always dreamed of. Nathan never mentioned her family's wealth or her privileged background. Even after everything had been revealed, he never acted differently around her, never treated her with any less respect or admiration. To him, the simple things were what mattered most, the quiet moments they shared, the laughs they had together, and the ways in which they could support one another. For Emma, this was a revelation. She had been conditioned to believe that love in her world was always tied to appearances or status. But with Nathan, it was different. He didn't see her wealth as a means to gain access to something greater. He didn't flatter her with compliments on her family's legacy or her place in society. Instead, Nathan treated her as an equal, as a partner. He was the first man she had ever met who cared more about her heart and her character than anything external. This realization was freeing for Emma. It was as if a heavy weight had been lifted from her chest. She no longer felt the need to hide or apologize for who she was. Nathan made her feel seen, not for the image others projected onto her, but for the person she was at her core. And that person, she realized, was worthy of love, just as she was. In a quiet moment one evening, as they sat together on the balcony of her apartment, Emma found herself reflecting on everything that had brought her to this point. The fear, the loneliness, the doubts, everything seemed so distant now. Nathan had shown her that real love was built on understanding, trust, and respect. It wasn't about wealth or appearances. It was about shared values, shared dreams, and shared humanity. "I've never felt this way before," Emma said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. Nathan turned to her, his expression warm and kind. "What way is that?" he asked, his voice gentle. "Safe," she replied, her heart beating a little faster. "I've never felt truly safe with anyone. I always thought there was something I had to protect, some part of myself that couldn't be seen. But with you, I don't have to hide. I can just be me." Nathan smiled, his eyes filled with warmth. "You don't have to hide anything with me, Emma. I see you, and I love you, exactly as you are." Those words, simple and heartfelt, were everything Emma had longed for. In Nathan's eyes, she could see the truth of his words. He wasn't just saying them to appease her or to gain her favor. He said them because he meant them, because he truly saw her and loved her. Not for what she had, but for who she was. The bond between them grew stronger each day. Their relationship wasn't perfect, no relationship ever is, but it was real. They worked through challenges together, supported each other's goals, and celebrated each other's successes. Emma's heart, once cautious and guarded, began to open fully to Nathan, knowing that he was the one person she could trust with her entire self. But there was still one final step for Emma to truly embrace the love that had been so freely given to her. It wasn't just about trusting Nathan, it was about trusting herself. Trusting that she was worthy of a love that was pure, untainted by conditions or expectations. She had spent so many years doubting herself, questioning her worth, and believing that she had to be someone else to be loved. But Nathan had shown her the truth, she was worthy of love as she was. And so, on a quiet autumn evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Emma made a decision. She would give her heart fully to Nathan. Without hesitation, without doubt, she would embrace the love he offered her and trust that, together, they could build a life filled with the kind of love and respect that she had always dreamed of. "I love you, Nathan," Emma whispered, the words flowing from her heart as easily as the breath in her lungs. Nathan's smile widened, his eyes sparkling with joy. "And I love you, Emma, always." In that moment, surrounded by the quiet beauty of the evening and the peaceful rhythm of their hearts, Emma knew that she had found something extraordinary, something rare, something real, and she was finally ready to embrace it. As the months passed, Emma and Nathan's relationship continued to grow deeper. Their connection was undeniable, and the love they shared was rooted in mutual respect, understanding, and a commitment to each other that Emma had never experienced before. But even in the strongest of relationships, challenges inevitably arise, and it was during one such challenge that their bond would be tested in ways neither of them could have anticipated. It started with an unexpected opportunity for Nathan. He had been offered a job in another city, one that promised incredible career growth and financial stability. It was everything Nathan had worked for, a chance to build a future. Not just for himself, but for them as a couple. Yet, when the offer came through, it immediately brought tension between them. Emma felt torn. On one hand, She was proud of Nathan's accomplishments and excited about his potential. But on the other hand, she couldn't ignore the fear that his career advancement would mean distance, both physical and emotional. Nathan was hesitant. 2. He didn't want to leave Emma. They had built a life together in the city, and the thought of being apart for months, perhaps years, weighed heavily on him. But at the same time, he knew that this opportunity was too important to turn down. He had dreams, ambitions, and responsibilities that extended beyond their personal relationship. And as much as he loved Emma, he knew that he couldn't let fear of distance stand in the way of his future. They spent many sleepless nights talking about it, trying to find a way to make it work. Emma feared that the separation would slowly erode the foundation they had built. What if distance changed things? What if the love they shared began to fade without the constant presence of each other? Nathan, on the other hand, promised that no matter the distance, he would remain committed to their relationship, that he would always make the effort to stay connected. But as the days dragged on and the departure date grew nearer, Emma struggled to shake the feeling of doubt. It wasn't just about their love, it was about trust. Could she trust that Nathan's commitment would stay strong, even in the face of separation? Could she trust him to continue loving her when he was no longer there to hold her hand every day, to share every quiet moment? One evening, after a particularly difficult conversation, Emma decided that she needed to take a step back. She needed time to reflect on what was truly important to her, not just in her relationship, but in her life as a whole. She had spent so many years prioritizing the expectations of others, the family legacy, the demands of the business world, that she had never really taken the time to understand what she wanted for herself. She took a trip on her own to the countryside, a place she hadn't visited in years. The quiet of the rural landscape provided the space she needed to clear her head. As she walked through the fields, the sound of the wind rustling through the trees, she thought about everything she had with Nathan, the way he loved her unconditionally, the way he accepted her for who she was, and the way he made her feel like she was enough. For the first time in a long while, Emma realized that what mattered most wasn't the physical distance between them, but the emotional connection they shared. Nathan's job offer, while important, was just one part of their lives. What truly mattered was their willingness to face the challenges together, to trust each other, and to make the relationship work no matter the obstacles. As she walked through the fields, Emma knew that if their love was strong enough to withstand this challenge, it would survive anything. When she returned to the city, she found Nathan waiting for her, as if he had been counting the days. He had been patient, understanding, and above all, loving. When Emma met his gaze, she knew that they had both come to the same conclusion. Their love wasn't about proximity, it was about trust, commitment, and the willingness to work through difficulties together. "I've made my decision," Emma said, her voice steady. Nathan's eyes softened with anticipation. "What is it?" "I'm not afraid of the distance anymore," she said, her heart lighter than it had been in days. "I trust you. And I know we can make this work. No matter where you are." Nathan's face broke into a relieved smile. And in that moment, Emma knew that they had passed the most significant test of all. They had learned that love, when built on trust and mutual respect, can overcome any challenge. The distance would not weaken their bond, it would only make it stronger. And so, as Nathan left for the new city, Emma stood by him, knowing that no matter where life took them, they would always find their way back to each other. The months that followed Nathan's move were some of the most transformative in Emma's life. Their relationship, once founded on daily presence and shared moments, was now rooted in trust and patience. The physical distance, while initially challenging, had taught them both the true meaning of commitment. And though they were no longer living in the same city, their connection never faltered. Nathan settled into his new life, and the job was everything he had hoped for: rewarding, exciting, and full of potential. But as his career soared, Emma remained his anchor. They spoke every day, sometimes multiple times a day, and their conversations ranged from mundane updates about their days to deep, soul-searching discussions about their hopes for the future. Emma, too, had found new aspects of herself during this time. She had always been driven, but without Nathan's physical presence, she had to rely more on her own inner strength. She threw herself into her work with renewed focus, and her commitment to her volunteer work deepened. Nathan had always admired her compassion for others, and now, without the constant distractions of daily life, she had the space to grow even further as a person. But with growth comes change, and Emma felt a quiet shift within herself. She realized that the journey she had started with Nathan was about more than just the love they shared. It was about discovering who she was without the confines of her family's expectations or the pressures of her social circle. She no longer wanted to live just for others, she wanted to live for herself. To chase her own dreams, independent of the legacy she had inherited. It was during one of their late-night calls that Nathan could sense something different in her voice. She sounded more confident, more certain. He had always known her to be strong. But now, there was a palpable sense of independence. "You sound different," Nathan said, his voice soft with curiosity. "Like something has changed." Emma smiled, her heart light. "I think I've finally found the person I've always been, Nathan. And I'm proud of her. I'm proud of me." Nathan felt a swell of emotion in his chest. He had always supported her. But now he could see that Emma was becoming the woman she had always been meant to be. The woman who didn't need validation from anyone except herself. The woman who had the courage to take risks, to dream big, and to carve out her own path. Their relationship, though tested by distance, had only deepened. The trust they had built was unshakable, and both of them knew that the love they shared was not dependent on proximity, but on the bond they had created together. They had learned that real love wasn't about living in each other's pockets, but about giving each other the space to grow individually while always finding their way back to one another. One weekend, Nathan surprised Emma with a visit. He had planned it for months, keeping the secret until the very last moment. When Emma opened the door to find him standing there, her heart skipped a beat. He looked the same, yet somehow different, as though the time apart had made him more grounded, more certain of who he was. "I missed you," he said, his voice filled with warmth as he embraced her. "I missed you too," Emma replied, her voice thick with emotion. They stood there, wrapped in each other's arms, as if the months of separation had never happened. That weekend was a celebration of everything they had endured and everything they had become. It wasn't just about their love for each other, it was about their growth, their resilience, and their ability to trust and support one another through every challenge life had thrown their way. They spent the weekend reconnecting, walking through the city streets, sharing quiet meals, and making new memories together. And then, in the stillness of a Sunday evening, as they sat on the couch, Emma looked at Nathan with a new clarity. The love between them, she realized, wasn't just about the spark of passion or the comfort of companionship. It was about a shared journey, a commitment to walk through life together, no matter where it took them. "Nathan," Emma said, her voice full of certainty, "I'm ready. Ready to build a life with you. One that's not defined by the past or by what's expected of us. A life that's just ours." Nathan took her hand, his heart swelling with love. "And I'm ready, Emma. Ready to build that life with you. No matter where we go, or what we face, I know we'll always have each other." In that moment, Emma realized that love wasn't just about being together physically. It was about the deep, abiding connection they shared, and the willingness to face the future together, no matter how uncertain or challenging it might be. And as Nathan kissed her forehead gently, she knew that their love, built on trust, patience, and a mutual understanding, would carry them through whatever the world had in store. The years following Nathan's visit were marked by a profound sense of unity between him and Emma. Their relationship had blossomed into something neither of them had expected. Not because of the grand gestures or the picture-perfect moments, but because of their shared commitment to each other's growth and the understanding that love, above all, was a partnership. As they continued to live their separate lives in different cities, Emma and Nathan found new ways to stay connected. Phone calls, video chats, and the occasional weekend visits were no longer a burden but a means to celebrate their bond. Distance, once seen as a challenge, had evolved into a testament to their trust. But the foundation of their relationship had always been built on the promise of a shared future. A future that was now drawing closer. Nathan had begun to make plans for a permanent move back to Emma's city, knowing that his career could continue to thrive while also being closer to the woman he loved. Emma, in turn, had expanded her own professional ambitions, working toward a leadership role in her volunteer organization. Both of them, though leading separate lives for a time, had become stronger versions of themselves, individuals who knew that their greatest fulfillment would come not only from success, but from sharing that success with the other. Still, they both carried with them the lessons they had learned. Nathan had learned the importance of patience, how love was not simply about proximity, but about dedication and perseverance. Emma, for her part, had learned the value of trust and self-discovery. In the past, she had looked to others to validate her worth. But now she understood that her value came from within, and that her relationship with Nathan was a partnership built on mutual respect, not dependency. One evening, as they sat together during one of Nathan's visits, Emma shared her thoughts on their journey, the way they had navigated the difficult times, the distance, the uncertainty. It had all shaped them in ways they hadn't expected. Sometimes, I think about how different things would have been if we hadn't taken those risks, Emma said, her eyes soft as she looked at Nathan. If we hadn't trusted each other to grow in our own ways. Nathan smiled, his gaze fixed on hers. I know exactly what you mean, but I think that's what makes us stronger. Emma, the risks, the hard moments, they've only shown us what we're capable of. Together. Emma took his hand, feeling the steady warmth of his touch. She had never felt more secure in their future than she did now. Their love had survived the tests of time, distance, and personal growth. They had learned not only how to be together but how to respect each other's individual journeys and dreams. The conversation shifted, and they began to talk about their plans for the future, how they would move forward together, both personally and professionally. Emma mentioned that she was considering opening her own non-profit organization, one that focused on empowering young women to follow their dreams. And Nathan immediately expressed his support. I think you would be amazing at that, Nathan said with absolute certainty. You've always had the heart for it, Emma. And now, you've got the experience and the confidence to make it happen. Her eyes sparkled with gratitude. I couldn't do it without you. Though, you've always been my rock. You've taught me how to trust myself. Nathan kissed her forehead. We've both taught each other a lot. That's what makes this work. As they talked late into the night, the plans they made felt like the beginning of something bigger than both of them. They weren't just talking about a shared future, they were building it, brick by brick. When Nathan finally made the move back to Emma's city, it was a milestone. Their lives, once distant, were now interwoven in a way that felt right. They found an apartment together, a cozy place where they could build their lives. Every detail, from picking out furniture to deciding where to put the plants, was a reflection of their growing partnership. They knew the road ahead wouldn't be without its challenges. But for the first time, they were ready to face them together. The distance that once felt so insurmountable now seemed like a distant memory, replaced by a shared home, shared goals, and the promise of a future built on the lessons of the past. Emma had found a new sense of purpose. Not just as Nathan's partner, but as a woman standing firm in her own identity. Nathan, too, had rediscovered a deeper love, one rooted in respect, patience, and shared vision. Together, They knew they could navigate anything the future had in store. Their love was no longer just about surviving, it was about thriving. About embracing the future with the knowledge that the strongest relationships are built on understanding, growth, and the unwavering support of one another. Emma and Nathan's life together, while fulfilling, was not without its challenges. As with any relationship that has withstood time and distance, there were moments of uncertainty, moments when the weight of the world seemed a little too heavy to bear. But what made their bond unique was how they faced these difficulties together, drawing strength from each other rather than allowing the pressures of life to pull them apart. One of the first challenges they faced as a couple living in the same city was adjusting to the pace of their new life. Though they had spent years building their relationship through conversations and visits, living together day in and day out was a new chapter. It meant sharing not just the big moments, but also the mundane, sometimes tedious details of everyday life, managing chores, dividing responsibilities, navigating each other's habits, and learning to communicate without the cushion of distance. Emma, in particular, found herself wrestling with the idea of giving up some of the independence she had fought so hard to maintain. For years, her life had been her own, a carefully curated balance of work, personal space, and time with Nathan. Now, she had to make adjustments, compromises in ways she hadn't anticipated. One evening, after Nathan had finished a long day at work and Emma had come home from a meeting, they sat down for a quiet dinner together. The conversation, which had once been easy and effortless, now felt strained. "I feel like I'm losing myself a little," Emma confessed, her voice thick with emotion. "I've worked so hard to get here, and now it feels like I'm letting go of some of the things that matter to me." Nathan, sensing her unease, reached across the table and took her hand. "Emma, I understand. I think we both knew this wouldn't be easy, but you're not losing yourself. We're just learning how to navigate life together, as a team. And that means sometimes we'll have to make sacrifices. But that doesn't mean you're giving up who you are." His words, calm and measured, were a balm to her restless heart. She had known that merging lives would require compromises. But hearing Nathan's understanding, hearing him acknowledge her struggles, helped her to breathe easier. "You're right," she whispered, her voice soft. "I guess I'm just scared. Scared that in all this, I'll forget what I've built. Forget what makes me, me." Nathan squeezed her hand, his eyes filled with unwavering support. "You won't forget. You'll always be you. And I'll always be here, cheering you on, every step of the way. We'll make this work together." The conversation, though difficult, was a turning point. It reminded Emma of the importance of communication and honesty in their relationship. She realized that it wasn't about giving up parts of herself, but about finding ways to integrate those parts into the new life they were building together. It wasn't about losing her identity, it was about evolving her identity within the context of their shared future. Over the next few months, they both made conscious efforts to adjust. Emma, finding balance, began to carve out more time for her passions, reconnecting with the causes she cared about most. Nathan, recognizing her need for space and independence, made sure to respect her boundaries and supported her in pursuing her professional goals. Their relationship, though tested, grew stronger. They became better at listening to each other, at understanding the subtle shifts in each other's moods and needs. They learned that challenges weren't signs of weakness, they were opportunities to deepen their connection and to show up for one another in ways they hadn't before. One day, Emma came home to find Nathan working on a proposal for her nonprofit initiative, something they had discussed for months. She was stunned, moved by his willingness to invest his time and energy into something that was her dream. It was a reminder that, despite the difficulties they faced, they were partners in every sense of the word. "I don't know what I would do without you," Emma said, her voice filled with emotion. Nathan looked up, smiling softly. "You'll never have to find out." It was moments like these, small yet significant, that reaffirmed their love and their commitment to each other. They had come through difficult times before, but it was the way they handled each challenge, the way they chose to fight for each other, that made their relationship stronger. And as they moved forward, Emma and Nathan knew that while life would always have its ups and downs, they were ready for whatever came next. Together, they were unbreakable. As the years passed, Emma and Nathan's journey together was marked not just by love and challenges, but by the wisdom they gained from their experiences. They had learned so much about themselves, each other, and the world around them. But now, as they stood at the threshold of a new chapter, it was time to reflect on everything they had gone through. It was a quiet evening, much like the ones they had spent together so many times before. The soft glow of the lamps illuminated the room as Emma and Nathan sat side by side on the couch, each of them contemplating the journey they had taken. There was no need for grand speeches, no need for dramatic declarations. The lessons they had learned were already written in their hearts, woven into the fabric of their relationship. For Emma, the journey had been about understanding the balance between ambition and love. She had always believed that to succeed, she had to do it alone. That independence was the key to fulfillment. But life had taught her a different lesson. Her true strength didn't come from being self-sufficient, but from the ability to let others in, especially Nathan. His unwavering support had shown her that she could follow her dreams and still remain deeply connected to someone else. She thought back to the days of doubt when she questioned whether pursuing her career would mean sacrificing her happiness. Now, she knew that true success was not just about professional accomplishments or individual milestones. It was about building a life where love and passion could coexist, where two people could grow without losing themselves in the process. Nathan had helped her realize that the right person would not only stand by her but also encourage her to reach higher, to go further, to be more than she ever thought possible. "I used to think independence was my greatest strength," Emma whispered, more to herself than to Nathan. "But now I know that it's vulnerability, the ability to let someone else in, to trust them with your heart." Nathan turned to her, his eyes full of understanding. He had seen her grow, witnessed her struggle, and had supported her every step of the way. And now, as he listened to her, he was reminded of his own journey. For Nathan, the lesson had been about trust, not just trusting Emma, but trusting life itself. For so long, he had lived cautiously, afraid to let go and open himself up completely. His past had been filled with hesitations and doubts, born from a fear of being hurt or losing control. But with Emma, he had learned that love was not about control. It was about surrender, about believing that even when things were uncertain, there was a greater force that would guide them through every challenge. From the distance they had to endure when Emma moved to another city, to the moments when they both faced personal dilemmas, Nathan had learned to trust in the foundation they had built. He had learned that love, when nurtured with respect, honesty, and shared values, could withstand anything. It wasn't about avoiding hardship, but about facing it together, with the confidence that no matter what, they would come out stronger on the other side. "Life doesn't always give us easy answers," Nathan said, his voice quiet but firm. "But if we trust in each other, trust that we're meant to be, we can face anything." I've learned that love isn't about keeping control, it's about letting go and trusting the process. As they sat together, reflecting on their individual journeys, they realized how far they had come. What had started as two individuals, each with their own dreams and fears, had become a shared path. Their love was not perfect, it had been tested, stretched, and at times, seemed on the brink of breaking. But it had never faltered. It had only grown deeper, stronger, more resilient. Emma and Nathan didn't need grand gestures to express their love, they had already said everything that mattered. Their lives had been a story of growth, of lessons learned, of love both tested and strengthened by time. And now, at the end of this chapter, They knew that whatever came next would be just another step in their shared journey. For Emma, the lesson was clear: love and ambition could coexist. And true strength came from vulnerability and trust. For Nathan, it was about letting go of fear, opening his heart fully, and trusting that life had a way of guiding them when they needed it most. Together, they had learned the most important lesson of all: love wasn't just something you felt, it was something you built. Day by day, with patience, trust, and unwavering belief in each other. And in that, they found everything they needed. Their story was far from over. It was only the beginning.